Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular town council meeting for 7 p.m. Thursday, February the 8th to order. Obviously, this is being held in public session. Please, if you haven't already, take this opportunity to silence any electronic devices, etc. Next is roll call.
Councilor Mark Eastman. Here. Councilor Paul Govan.
Here.
Councilor Tracy Hare.
Here.
Mayor Paul Bissonnette.
Here.
Councilor Daniel Ormsby.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Steve Bishop.
Here.
Councilor Ed Rankin.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Next is presentation of any town council recognitions. Not seeing any. Next, we will consider the minutes of previous meetings. We have our minutes from the January 25th, 2024 meeting. I will assume everybody's had a chance to review.
Motion approved. Second.
Those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next, we receive and review correspondence. We have correspondence regarding 3 police calls, 2 from Verona on the 29th and 21st of January 2024, a police call in Orland on the 29th of January 2024, and we also have the Down East Transportation Ridership Report from December of 2023. Any questions on any of those? All right. We did have on the agenda ordinances to consider or introduce, but we will have, we're moving that to our meeting on the 22nd. Next is discussion items. The first will be from the Regulatory Review Committee this evening.
This evening we talked about town-owned property usage policy again. The town manager came up with a policy that had all of our views in it, pieces. We made a couple. She's going to correct them and come back to us next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you. Next is goals and objective sessions report from earlier this evening as well. If you'd like, I'll handle that. In short, we came up with a number of goals which we are going to now prioritize. And as we just discussed, those goals will be sent to us in email along with progress report on some of the items there, as well as some of the items left over from last year's goals, and for us to consider as well. Just as a commentary, I'll steal from what the town manager just said to me a moment ago. It was a great session, folks. It was an interactive session. The fact that I had to kind of rein the conversation in towards the end, as you mentioned, we've had those conversations last 20 minutes before, so that's very, very encouraging, and I thank you all for that. Any other comments on that? I didn't miss anything. Let's see. Next is the Narromissik Orland Watershed Stewardship Initiative, possible referral to infrastructure.
I met with some representatives from Alamoosic and Toddy, who are forming a stewardship initiative for the watershed that serves those. Part of that watershed is also in Bucksport, in the Route 46 area, and they wanted to know if the town would be interested in participating in that discussion for that session. They would be happy to come and make a brief presentation to the infrastructure committee if this is something that it seems we are part of that watershed, part of the community, and I think that I would hope that the council would entertain listening to their discussion about protecting this watershed. And if so, I told them I would let them know, and we could have an infrastructure committee meeting prior to the meeting on the 22nd of February.
Sounds good.
Yep. No
We
concerns?
could have a motion and a vote.
Motion.
Motion to, what was the motion for? To bring them in?
To send it to infrastructure.
Oh, right. Motion to send it to infrastructure.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next is agenda items. There is an item that I'll ask for approval to add here in just a few minutes. I'm just saying that mostly for me so I don't forget. But the first item under agenda items is Resolve 2024-36 to approve abatement of personal property taxes for Bucksport Bay Tanning in the principal amount of $237.16.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Agenda item B is resolved 2024-37 to approve the leasing of 2 police cruisers from Enterprise Fleet Management.
Motion to, second.
Motion and second. Comments?
I do have a comment on that. I've spoke with Chief Gagan and Chief Winchester about this a lot, and I'm really encouraged about the amount of work that they put into it. I really think they sharpened their pencil and broke a few pencils and sharpened them again to get this done, and I'm just really impressed with the amount of work they put into it to try to do what they could to save some money and put things in the right places.
Not to put you
I
on the
would,
spot.
I would agree. They've
Yep.
done a huge amount of work in regard to this, and it does a couple of things. It levels off, it's a lease, it's an ongoing payment, but it levels off the outlay on an annual basis, and the bigger thing is it guarantees that our equipment is always at optimum as it comes and goes, and so we're not faced with huge repair bills for things, because, and that's a big deal.
That was the element I wanted to touch on publicly, is that I had 2 different people approach me about the concept of leasing and were concerned about the loss of an asset. Moving this from a capital expense into an operating expense. And through what we've discussed through this process is that asset, when it's done, when it's terminated, is gleaning pennies on the dollar, and it really is not an asset when it's done. So through those discussions and the questions that I was presented with, they were very receiving of the idea of leasing. Once we were done with those discussions, through the idea of it's not like a typical personal lease type scenario. It's a tool, it's a wrench that these guys need to do what they're doing. So.
In a vehicle is a poor asset.
Terrible asset. Terrible asset.
Remind me again, Chief, remind me what I was gonna ask you. What was Endgame, 6 or 8?
Cruisers?
Yeah,
So I think the end game would be 8, be in addition 1 more.
that'd be
However-
1 more than we have now.
Well, if you include the animal control,
Right.
we have 7. I think if we do this through a 4-year process, it will give us 8 with a huge savings over that period. However, one thing that I didn't share last time that I think it's important to share with you folks is we still haven't spent the money from last year's cruiser purchase. So we have $58,000 that was approved last year. And if this is approved, we could essentially order 2 cruisers next week and start the savings immediately. And then look, if it's approved again through CIP in July, we could have 4 new cruisers leased in a 4 or 5 month period, and start the 4-year savings a year early.
And then with budget talks, we can still talk about the money you set aside for.
Absolutely big, in terms of the asset, no asset capital, we've really been treating cruiser purchases like an annual operating expense now for some years. We have not been building up a reserve account. We've been funding every year the purchase of a cruiser, or sometimes 2. But, so in terms of capital, it's been funded through that budget, but it's more of an operational expense, or has been, we've treated it more like that, even though it's been in the capital budget, which is the other thing that I've told people in terms of this, is this just reduces the outlay and puts it in the budget. It should actually be in the way we're treating this now anyway, so.
But all the equipment will still be a capital expense.
Absolutely.
And just, I'll end with, somebody asked last week about, I had brought up the WatchGuard camera system and that expiring. I actually got the quote back today. I think I told you folks it was $5,000. It's $9,000.
Wow.
Motorola has taken over WatchGuard and kind of cornered the market, and when you own it, you can set the price. So $5,000 is now $9,000. But for discussion, I guess at another time, if we're saving on last year's allocated funds for a cruiser, that could essentially allow us to purchase that out of that equipment line and save down the road, so.
It's correct, right? Every year forward, when we're leasing, it does free up an outright expense at the beginning of the year for other things that we would need with the cruisers, right? Like what are you calling it? The WatchGuard?
Yeah, it's the in-car camera
Yeah.
system.
Is that right? So we'd have sort of
It levels, we're not writing a $54,000 check in July to buy 2 cruisers. We're writing a $2,200 check a month for 12 months or whatever, if it's 2. And it levels out your expenditures to make your cash flow work better. Can almost close my eyes and see when money gets spent but the October, November time of year is the most expensive time. It's when any bond payments, meaning all our school bonds are due there, the loan on the soil concentrator is due then, county tax is due then, which is nearly $300,000. Those are big, and so when we do purchasing, if we front load $55,000 here and $100,000 there to buy things, that exacerbates the beginning of the year. And if you can't buy what you need until after January or actually closer to March when the second half of taxes come in to keep your, you're really budgeting, but you're almost not getting what you need for another year after the budget's approved because of when we try to spend money in order to keep from needing to borrow to do those kind of things. I know that's probably more complicated and way more wordy than anyone wants to listen to, but these kind of programs help in more ways than just that. It helps in leveling out the expenditure pattern for the town.
Good.
So, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Do we have a motion yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion
And a
and a
second.
second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Next, item C is Resolve 2024-38 to approve the location of a streetlight on Central Street near Silver Lake Estates.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
Motion to take up an item not on the agenda, item D, resolve 2024-39 to approve borrowing $93,690 from the first for the sidewalk plow approved on 3/10/2022.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. So now, Resolve 2024-39 to approve borrowing $93,690 from the first for the sidewalk plow approved on March the 10th, 2022.
Motion approved. Second.
Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Resignations, appointments, assignments, and elections. Seeing none. Next is approval of quitclaims, discharges, and deeds. The first is Rebecca Barnard, map 13, lot 85, quitclaim deed for liens placed June 13th, 2020, June 15th, 2021, June 16th, 2022, and June the 28th, 2023. Would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Questions? Those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next is the heirs of Regine Craig, map 009, lot 042, quitclaim deed for tax lien certificate dated June 16th, 2022. Let's proceed.
Motion approved.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Next will be the town manager report.
Bob England has requested to be appointed to the baseball field committee. He indicated he had a great deal of knowledge in regard to the field and its origins. And with no objections, I will include this on a services committee agenda for 2/22/24. Is that, when we get down, you'll see where I looked to place it. It was like 6:45. It's not a long meeting. I am very pleased to report that the survey that we've been waiting for at 917 River Road in regard to the private cemetery that is believed to be located on that site will be completed next week. And we should have the results of that survey prior to the next cemetery committee meeting. I find that to be really good news. We've been waiting a long time to get that survey completed. In response to social media posts and the general rumor mill, I'd like to address two issues. First is that the housing project at Penquis is not going to be a rehab and recovery facility for those recovering from drug addiction. And second, out-of-pocket rents have not been raised to existing tenants at this time. New tenants may see rents at a slightly higher rate, but existing renters are not affected at this time. And finally, Knoxview property has been converted to a no-smoking property. Considering the concerns that public safety has expressed over the difficulties in manning to fight fires in these multi-unit apartment complexes, reducing the fire risk is a good thing. My apologies to those who were inconvenienced today by the early closure of the transfer station. The tractor has been in Bangor for repairs, and those were not completed early enough today to allow either of the full trailers to be hauled, and the hopper was more than full also. Staff will be picking up the tractor late today and hauling first thing tomorrow, so that an empty trailer should be available by the time the transfer station opens at 9. Penquis is seeking funding through the CDBG program for some of the costs of renovating Knoxview, including installing heat pumps to try and bring down the high utility costs that tenants experience. The town has to be the vehicle through which that funding is obtained through the CDBG program. A public hearing will have to be held before the council can act on the request, and I anticipate that the public hearing would be held at our March 14th meeting. Rich and I met via Zoom with a representative from Penquis this week, and they will be providing more details soon, which we will forward to the council. Budgets were due to be submitted this week, and they have been. And Rachel and I will start inputting information next week, and I look forward to beginning this process. And finally, I am very pleased to report that the sale of 5 Mount Olive Heights has been completed to the Jellisons. That very long chapter has ended. Another one of those items that seem to be, have a life that never ended is done, so.
Very good. Thank you, Sue. Any questions for Sue or any of the other department heads? Great. Thank you. Next is set public hearings and or hold public hearings and approval of any licenses or permits, and we have none. Discussion of items not on the agenda for council and public. I will start with the public first. While I sign this. Good. Anything from the council?
Just get the okay. I was gonna reach out to all the former members of the baseball wall committee and just see if they're still interested. I'd have to go look at the list again. I don't even remember, but
I think that's a great idea.
okay.
I can send that out to you if you want the list of who was on that before.
Sure, it'll save me some digging because it's been a few, 2 or 3 years. So
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. Oh,
Sue, can I get a list of all the committees, please?
next.
I'll send this to everybody.
Perfect. Thank you. Upcoming public hearings, designation of topics for committee assignment, and scheduling of committee meetings. We just talked about Councilor Ricken and the baseball field committee. I just heard the services committee will meet before the next meeting.
6:45.
Sure.
Would the council be willing to meet at 6 to talk to the Narragansett watershed people that said that they would come in on the 22nd of this month? And I can do that at 6:15. I don't think it would take them more than half an hour.
6:15 before our next meeting. Anyone?
Yeah, we do have a cemetery committee before that.
Is that the 20?
Yes, we do.
So we've got a 6:15 and a 6:45.
Yes.
Okay. For everything.
Yep.
Okay. Yep,
And me neither.
got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a quorum issue at the next, is there, who's gone?
Councilor Goblin and Councilor Ormsby.
Okay, all right.
And the playground is Monday, the 12th?
Yes, economic development is Monday at 5, playground is Monday at 6, both here.
Both right here?
Both, yes.
Okay. What's?
Say that again, is,
Economic's gonna be at 5,
Five.
playground's gonna be at 6.
okay. Usually, we're 6.
Usually we're
Okay.
6, but he wanted to go so we didn't have to go so late.
Yeah. Make sure I get it right.
Anything else?
I will not be here on March 28th. I know
Right.
that's a ways away, but it's not.
As of right now, we have 5 councilors here for our next meeting. If that changes, let me know, because that becomes awkward. Because just remember, you have to have 4 votes to take action on anything, so. If there's nothing else, the council won't be taking any action outside of the next item except to adjourn this meeting. But we do need to move into executive session pursuant to MRSA Title I, Chapter 13, subsection 4056H, for a discussion of a legal matter with the code enforcement officer. Thank you, everyone.
I need a motion in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Motion. I make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor of doing what I just said? Thank you.